Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Imagine you're riding a train home after another exhausting day, hoping for nothing more than a quiet journey, when a complete stranger suddenly sits beside you, smiles calmly, and whispers, "You're my husband for the next 3 hours." Sounds impossible, right? But sometimes life writes stories stranger than fiction, and today's story is one you'll remember until the very end. I still remember the exact moment everything changed. The train had just left the station, and I was staring out the window, watching the city lights slowly disappear into the evening. I had my headphones on, pretending to listen to music even though the battery had died almost an hour earlier. I wasn't avoiding anyone in particular. I just didn't feel like talking. The seat beside me had remained empty until the next stop. A young woman stepped into the carriage carrying a small leather bag. She looked elegant but tense, as if she hadn't taken a full breath all day. She scanned the crowded train before walking directly toward me. Without asking, she sat beside me. I glanced at her briefly before looking away again. Then she leaned closer and quietly said, "Don't react. Just smile." I froze. Before I could ask what she meant, she gently grabbed my hand. "My name is Emma," she whispered. "For the next 3 hours, you're my husband." "What?" She kept smiling as if nothing unusual had happened. "Please," she said softly. "I'll explain later. Just trust me." Trust her? I didn't even know her. I slowly pulled my hand back. "I think you've got the wrong person." "No," she answered. "You're exactly the right person because you're sitting in this seat." That answer only confused me more. There they are. My heart immediately started racing. The two men wore expensive suits, but something about them felt intimidating. They walked through the aisle looking carefully at every passenger. Emma leaned her head gently against my shoulder. "Honey," she said loudly enough for them to hear, "did you remember to call your mother?" I stared at her in disbelief. She squeezed my arm painfully. "Play along." The men looked at us. One of them paused. Emma looked completely relaxed, even laughing quietly as if we had been married for years. Only after they disappeared did Emma finally breathe again. I looked directly at her. "You owe me an explanation." She nodded. "I know." For the next several minutes she explained everything. Unfortunately, she also inherited enemies. One board member wanted complete control of the company. When Emma refused to sell her shares, he began using intimidation instead of business negotiations. The men following her weren't police. They weren't bodyguards. They were private investigators hired to pressure her into signing documents she refused to accept. "So why me?" She smiled nervously. "Because decent people still exist." I wasn't sure whether that was confidence or desperation. "How do you know I'm decent?" She laughed. "You moved your backpack so an elderly woman could sit down earlier." I blinked. "You noticed that?" "I notice everything." For the first time, I believed she might actually be telling the truth. Still, pretending to be someone's husband felt completely ridiculous. But leaving her alone didn't feel right either. The train continued through the countryside while we talked quietly. To anyone watching, we looked like an ordinary married couple sharing stories after work. Inside, my mind was racing. Emma asked about my life. I admitted I worked as a high school history teacher. Nothing glamorous. Nothing extraordinary. She smiled warmly. "My father always said teachers build the future." Most people simply asked why I didn't choose a higher-paying career. She listened carefully as I talked about my students, my tiny apartment, and how life hadn't exactly gone according to plan. Instead of pitying me, she respected me. That felt surprisingly rare. This time they stopped directly beside us. One smiled politely. "Excuse me, ma'am." "Yes?" "We've been trying to reach you." She wrapped her arm around mine. "I'm traveling with my husband." The man's eyes shifted toward me. "And you are?" Every instinct told me to stay quiet. Instead, I smiled. "I'm the lucky guy who convinced her to take a vacation." Emma laughed convincingly. The second man looked unconvinced. "You were supposed to attend an important meeting tonight." Emma shrugged. "My family comes first." The first man studied both of us carefully. For several long seconds, nobody spoke. Finally, he nodded. "Have a pleasant trip." As they walked away, I realized my palms were covered in sweat. Emma quietly whispered, "That was perfect." I almost fainted. "I know." She laughed harder than before. For the first time all evening, the fear between us started disappearing. The hours passed surprisingly quickly. We talked about books, favorite childhood memories, terrible cooking disasters, dream vacations neither of us had taken. It started feeling like two people genuinely enjoying each other's company. When the train stopped at a small station, an elderly woman accidentally dropped her grocery bags. Without thinking, I hurried to help her. Emma joined me. Together we gathered oranges rolling across the platform while the elderly woman thanked us repeatedly. As we climbed back aboard, Emma quietly smiled. "My father would have liked you." I didn't know what to say. No one had ever connected me with someone they loved and respected so deeply. As darkness settled outside, the conductor announced the final hour of our journey. Emma suddenly became quiet. "You know," she said softly, "when I first sat beside you, I expected you to refuse." "I almost did." "What changed your mind?" I looked out the window. My mother always told me that someday a stranger would need help more than explanations. Emma smiled. "Your mother sounds wise." There was silence between us. Comfortable silence. Not awkward. The kind shared between people who no longer felt like strangers. Then something unexpected happened. One of the suited men returned again. Only this time, he wasn't alone. Two uniformed railway security officers followed behind him. My stomach tightened. Had they discovered the truth? The officer politely asked for identification. Emma calmly handed over her documents. I handed over mine. The officer compared our last names. They didn't match. He looked at us curiously. Emma answered before he could ask. "We got married recently." The officer smiled. "Congratulations." Then he handed our IDs back. The suited man looked frustrated. Without evidence, he couldn't do anything. He finally turned around and left the train forever. Only then did she close her eyes in relief. It's over. 3 simple words. It's over. The final station approached faster than either of us expected. People collected their luggage. Children woke from naps. Announcements echoed through the carriage. Our strange little story was almost finished. The train slowly rolled into the station. We stepped onto the platform together. For several seconds neither of us moved. "So," I finally said, "I guess this is where your temporary husband retires." Emma laughed. "I suppose it is." She reached into her bag and handed me a small business card. It only contained her name and a phone number. I interrupted her. "I didn't help because you're wealthy." "I know." "Then why give me the card?" "Because I'd like to meet you again when you don't have to pretend." Before I could answer, several black vehicles arrived nearby. Real security officers stepped out this time. Not the fake investigators. One of them approached respectfully. "Miss Carter, everything is secure now." She nodded. Then she looked back at me. "Thank you." I watched as she disappeared into the waiting cars. For a moment I wondered whether I'd ever see her again. Life usually doesn't reward ordinary people with extraordinary endings. I folded the business card and placed it carefully inside my wallet. School returned to normal. Homework. Exams. Parent meetings. Eventually I convinced myself the train journey had simply become one unforgettable memory. Then one Friday afternoon my phone rang. I almost ignored the unknown number. Instead, I answered. "So, are you busy?" I smiled without realizing it. "Depends. I still owe my husband dinner." "My temporary husband?" She paused. "My future one, if he's interested." A year later we stood together in a small countryside chapel surrounded by family and friends. When the minister asked whether I accepted Emma as my wife, I didn't hesitate for even a second. The most unbelievable part wasn't that a billionaire inherited a company. It wasn't dangerous investigators. It wasn't pretending to be married on a train. The real miracle was that one random seat, one unexpected conversation, and 3 unforgettable hours changed 2 lonely lives forever. Sometimes destiny doesn't knock on your door. Sometimes it quietly sits beside you on a train and whispers, "You're my husband for the next 3 hours." If you enjoyed this heartwarming story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story. Let us know in the comments, what would you have done if a complete stranger asked you to pretend to be their spouse for just 3 hours? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.